So, Murphy Bed was supposed to come in today, but guess what? They called in sick. So I'm stuck on the floor again. You know what? Let's just forget about this and maybe, talk about shows from our childhood that taught us serious lessons. So today I want to talk about two very important shows that we all may remember from our childhood. And I tell you, there's so many of them. And now one of them I have watched. The other, sometimes. But yes. Now the very first show I want to talk about is probably the longest one that's been going on and still is to this day, and features probably one of the best puppet characters you could ever, that you possibly remember from your childhood, and that is Sesame Street. Now, of course, there were some episodes that were pretty much, happy and lighthearted, but there were also a few episodes that did, go into some pretty dark subjects. Like I remember probably learning when, I guess, back in an episode that they made back in the 80s, where one of the human characters, Mr. Hooper died. I'm sure you all remember that one. Well, I didn't, because I wasn't born when that came out, and my mom probably never really let me watch any of the episodes that tackled the serious stuff for some reason. But yeah, I actually remember first finding that out in a top 10 darkest kids show episodes, and I tell you, I'm like, oh wow, I didn't even think Sesame Street could tackle something like this. And then I come to learn they tackled a few other things, in fact, they even tackled death again in a later episode where I guess Elmo's uncle died, and wow. And there's so much to name, oh my god, how? How is this possible? I get it, they're trying to teach kids, some stuff, which I must say isn't bad. It's like they tackled so many things, they tackled racism, and there's also, there could also be maybe some sexism here and there, and I don't know, just so much to name. Oh, but hey, remember when they tried to tackle divorce? Yeah, that's right, they tried to do that episode, but sadly, I guess, after a few test screenings, they decided not to air it because it was terrifying kids into thinking that their parents didn't love them and that they were getting divorced. And look, kids, I understand. I'm a child of divorced parents too, and I tell ya, I've been through it, and I'm gonna let you know. Your parents, they don't love it. Just because they're getting a divorce doesn't mean they hate. Doesn't mean they don't love you anymore. They just, are just don't really have any feelings for one another anymore. In fact, when my parents got divorced themselves, I'll tell ya, I wasn't really sad or anything. I was more confused. Why are they getting divorced? And they never even would tell me because they said they tell me when I'm older. But now that I've kind of been, not really spending time with my dad, for the past few years or so because of some bad stuff that happened at the time. It's basically, it's led me to think, just what maybe it could have been, but I guess after going through all that abuse, I don't really want to, know. Oh, but luckily, years later, we did get an episode in where Abby Cadabby, did talk about her parents being divorced, which I must say was pretty great. And it's also nice that they also tackle, disabilities too. I was extremely happy when I learned that they added a Muppet with autism. Because I have autism too, and it's, so interesting. It's so interesting what the people of this show can do. Create people and, teach us how we're all different in our own ways. And That's just what makes me happy about it. Okay, now this next show is the show I didn't really watch much, but saw a few episodes as a kid, even though when I look back on it, I kind of think to myself, was this even a kid's show? But I guess now that I see but then I start seeing some people and they're like, oh yeah, I remember that show. I used to watch it as a kid. I'm like, oh, okay, so kids did in fact watch it. Okay, I'm sure you all know this one. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Now, again, I saw some episodes of this as a kid and meh. Didn't really get into it, but I also didn't realize it tackled serious subjects too, like, possibly the same ones, that Sesame Street tackled. Oh, but here, I actually want to share a really funny story that's not really all that serious, but so so at the time when my grandmother was visiting, we went and saw the movie Isle of Dogs, and around this time, the trailers for I guess the Mr. Rogers documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor, were coming out, and when we were at the theater to go see it, the trailer for that movie, for that documentary played, and while it was playing, my grandmother asked me, did you used to watch Mr. Rogers when you were younger? And I basically, since I had a few memories of seeing it, I'm like, sometimes. I mean, I was a big Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network person, but I guess I did have a little bit of love for PBS Kids. I mean, come on, I'm sure we all did. I mean, then again, we needed something to educate ourselves every now and then again, so what do you expect? So, yeah, and then my grandmother says, oh, yeah, I mean, that's kind of good, because your mom was not a fan of him. And I'm like, what? Yeah, she found him annoying. And then later, when we met up with her for like dinner, after the movie, I mentioned it to her, and she said, "Oh yeah," ugh. And I asked her, "Why did you not like Mr. Rogers?" And she said, "Because he was annoying." Now go ahead. You can say my mom was like, "Oh, Sumner, what the heck's wrong with your mom? She definitely has no taste for that man. That man, taught us everything." And I get it, but I just don't really know what it was, And I get it. She just found him annoying. That's just all I'm gonna say. Although I will say there were a lot of things. Like I remember seeing a few clips, from some reaction videos, like talking about I guess, same old stuff on Sesame Street, racism. And there was one where they tackled divorce from what I remember. Oh, and I think there was also one where they tackled, some pretty, messed up events that happened, around that time, around the time, the show was airing, oof, so many dark times. I wish I could remember, but I forgot, but I can't exactly right now, but I'm sure it was serious. They probably tackled some violent stuff, which they probably only aired at night. Because, if you want to air that at the daytime, But yeah. But I must say, after, I guess, years later of learning a bit more about him, I started to realize, I don't think he was a great man. Even though I barely even watched his show, but I must say, what a great man. I mean, he basically, taught kids a lot of great things and, even taught them that there's some serious stuff. And I must say, not bad. Oh, and should I mention that he was actually on an episode of Sesame Street at one point? Yeah, that's right. So that's pretty much all I gotta say about this. So, hope you guys enjoyed this. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.